Improve your conversations. Think on your feet, witty banter, and always know what to say with improv comedy techniques. Second edition. Written by Patrick King. Narrated by Russell Newton. Great conversations don't simply appear spontaneously out of thin air. We might get lucky occasionally when we find people that happen to be on the same wavelength as us or share an obscure set of similarities. But that's not something you can depend on to carry you through life. That's like trying to predict when and where lightning will strike, which isn't exactly known to be possible. People who can create flowing conversations with just about everyone they meet are definitely achieving something different and special. What do people who can make something out of nothing have in common? It doesn't happen consistently without planning and preparation. This isn't planning and preparation in the conventional sense, where you might jot down ideas of topics to bring up or dig through the news for the current events of the day. Those are important to some degree, but they can be equally as detrimental. If you have a flowchart for conversations, any slight deviation can spell your doom. The type of preparation you'd need is to understand the basic anatomy of great conversations. That's going to be the focus of this first chapter of Improve Your Conversations. What are the elements you should focus on and seek out in your conversations, and what should you try to avoid? Moreover, which of the bad habits are you guilty of, and are you compelling others to want to converse with you, or are you actually repelling them? A great conversation greatly resembles an improv comedy performance and ideally should involve all the rules that I'm going to cover in this book. Conversation equals improv. Let's spell out the similarities. Both a conversation and an improv comedy performance involve parties who can't read each other's minds. They're both unpredictable situations because you just never know what's going to come out of someone's mouth. Both situations have the same goal of creating a pleasurable interaction, the conversation for the participants and the improv comedy performance for the audience. Both situations require collaboration and listening to create a dialogue. Otherwise, it's just two people reciting monologues to each other or speaking over each other. Finally, both situations are fragile. As you well know from your own experience, the wrong word, phrase, or question can instantly send a conversation into the toilet, and it's the same for an improv comedy performance. One miscue or misread from the other performer, and a silence will consume the stage, leading the audience to realize that this was indeed an unplanned stumble. If you've ever attended an improv comedy show, you know that the performers often refer to themselves as players, just like teammates on a sports team. This is not insignificant. It instantly frames what you see on stage as a collaborative effort where everyone is supporting everyone else for the common good. If any of the players sense that someone needs support, they will instantly give it. They understand that the performance isn't about any one person in particular. It's about how the entire team does. The weakest link of the chain will never be allowed to falter, as everyone will pitch in the moment they sense trouble. The players are extremely flexible and adaptable because they have no preset agenda or real purpose other than to work together with the other players successfully. What's been unspoken thus far is the absence of an ego, as an ego can completely sabotage and destroy what the group is carefully creating. The improv players work together, like cyclists, with the first cyclist taking his turn at the front of the line to absorb all the wind resistance, then falling back and letting someone else pick up the slack. Of course, that would never work if someone's ego were to get in the way and they decided they were bigger than the team. The whole line would be disrupted and rendered useless. If none of what I've described resembles how you've approached conversations or interactions up to this point in your life, it's time to reevaluate your approach. Improv players spend years toiling away, perfecting their craft. But we don't have to get to Will Ferrell's level to simply improve our conversations. We can greatly increase our wit, banter, and conversational intelligence simply by imagining a collaborative and accepting process. Below, you'll read about some of the main tenets of improv comedy and how they apply to you offstage. Spontaneity and Flow. It's you, it's the stage, and it's your fellow players. That's it. How will the moment unravel? Something will spontaneously unfold here, but what could it be? Is it going to be novel, engaging, and creative? Part of the fun is finding out and honing your skills in the process. Improv players don't come into a scene with an idea of how it's going to play out. Why not? Because it's completely out of their control. They might be able to contribute to the path, but the rest will be spelled out by the other players whose minds they cannot read. Agendas, plans, and scripts are cast to the side, and spontaneity and flow are the most important elements. It's necessary that players are open and comfortable with venturing into unknown territory, because any expectations will likely be completely unmet. They accept and even embrace the fact that they won't know the outcome, and there will be a certain amount of uncertainty. This mindset alone is transformative in creating a sense of flexibility that gives life to great conversations. If you go to a networking event with the idea of seeking a job, that's an expectation that will creep into all of your conversations, whether you realize it or not. You're going to subconsciously nudge your interactions into specific directions that will probably disrupt the natural flow of how they would otherwise go, to your detriment. If you speak to that same person and just seek to connect, chances are a very different connection will form. When you come into a conversation with an agenda, it's not much different from a telemarketer reading from a script. You may have heard the other person respond to something, but it didn't fit your agenda, so you ignored it and told your funny story again. You don't listen and are just waiting for your turn to speak instead of responding. When things don't flow, they stop. In other words, they're dead. There are probably some important life lessons hidden in all this when it comes to control, but there's no need to look into it too deeply. The point is that you need to flow with the conversation, letting it move and evolve and carry you along, instead of trying to grab it too tightly out of fear. When you try to choreograph a conversation too tightly, it dies there and then. People can feel it, and it doesn't feel good. Who wants to read through a script that's already been ironed out? We can probably think of a few people off the top of our heads that do this all the time. They clearly have something they want to say and aren't interested in hearing what you have to contribute. Would others include you in that category? Flexibility and the ability to adapt are paramount to any great conversation. Good conversation is alive and breathing, and it needs to flow. Emotional intelligence. This is a term that's thrown around quite a bit, so let's define it for this context. Emotional intelligence is when you understand what someone is trying to convey through their words or body language, and you understand what you yourself are conveying to others through the same. It's a little like being fluent in a particular language, one of emotion. Only a small minority of people will outright state how they feel in a conversation or discussion. If it's a negative topic, then that small minority turns into a tiny fraction of a percentage, since most people prefer to avoid confrontation whenever possible. People generally don't tell others about their emotional state or how they feel about topics of conversation. You'll rarely hear statements such as, "I'm uncomfortable with this topic, but if you want to discuss this, we can." Or, "This is a topic I'm trying to avoid, so I'm going to try to deflect by talking about the weather." If we're in the dark about people's emotional states, it's up to us to pay attention to others to try to ascertain how they feel about topics, stories, and the conversation itself. We need to look beyond the mere words people speak and at the circumstances to gauge their feelings. The truth is, there's plenty of information out there in the open to read and interpret, if only you're paying close enough attention to watch it emerge. We're back in the present moment again, and it's about really being there with your conversation partner, noticing all the subtle ways they're telling you things. Joe tells a story about a man with his broken leg and a cast being helplessly humped by a large dog. What are the ways you can judge whether someone thinks this story is genuinely hilarious versus crass and immature? Did their laugh die quickly? Did they add additional questions about the man? Did they give a polite smile and immediately change the subject? We need to be more emotionally intelligent because emotions inform a great part of social interaction. We also need to be much more aware of the messages we're sending to others. For every action, there can be a wide range of interpretations and reactions which offer a guide for how to proceed. When you actively seek to understand the emotional state of people you're interacting with, which can be as simple as whether or not they're enjoying a topic of conversation, you're given a template for where to go and how. Focusing on emotional intelligence and the emotional state of others is an approach that puts others first. It's the opposite of thinking in a self-centered manner, and paying more attention to others than yourself is clearly beneficial because there are at least two parties to a conversation. It boils down to this. If someone conveys that they're angry and you completely miss it, an awkward and uncomfortable situation arises. When this happens frequently enough, people will tend to avoid you. If you can accurately catch the emotions people are conveying, even though they may not be stating them explicitly, they will feel that you understand them better and be more drawn to you. Play. With so much focus on how to extract what you want from other people, what's been lost is the seemingly simple revelation that conversation should actually be fun and enjoyable. What makes really good conversation sparkle the way it does? It's not planned. It's not serious. It's not forced. It's closer to flirting or spontaneous dancing to good music than it is to a meeting or a performance. There aren't that many reasons we engage in social conversations with others. A mixture of fun, pleasure, connection, and entertainment are at the top of that list. After all, it's why you're reading this book, isn't it? Truly amazing conversation is one of the greatest joys of life. That's the reason that improv players labor during long rehearsals. They enjoy the process and being able to turn nothing into something. They're playing with each other on stage, and the better they are at playing, the more they enjoy it. The same dynamic exists in normal conversation. If you can turn your boring, job-focused conversation into something enjoyable for both parties, then they will enjoy being around you more and, subsequently, open up to you more. If you make it your goal to, first and foremost, create a playful and fun atmosphere within your conversations, avoiding interview mode and small talk, you'll be able to achieve your other goals, like obtaining a job or promotion, far more easily. It's just human nature. Let go of your standard interview questions, comments about the weather, and brain filter. What's the playful manner with which you speak to your closest friends? How do children interact on the playground battlefield? We could stand to play a bit more, since play takes people's guards down and sets the stage for actual connection. Make it easy. For others, that is, improv players are focused on making the performance shine, and they know that they do that by giving others easy setups and premises to work with. They're not going to give others a scenario they know nothing about with a complete lack of details. Just like in conversation, it's never a competition. You don't need to outshine anyone. It's the conversation, the vibe that is elevated, and not your particular story or point of view. In addition to giving each other as many softballs as possible, improv players support each other and remain on board however dire it gets. Someone will swoop in to rescue you, and you can depend on their help. It builds a sense of security and space for vulnerability to try new things and otherwise open up. Everyone is each other's best supporting actor or actress. Now, that's a powerful feeling to have about someone you're speaking with. True team cohesion and group effort is one of the most beautiful things about a really good improv team. There are many ways we can similarly make it easier for the person we converse with to speak their mind or express themselves. Display openness. Solicit opinions and ask questions. Put others in the spotlight and allow them to shine. Don't put others in a conversational place to twist in the wind. Improv comedy is one of the best things you can learn for your ability to think on your feet, excel at witty banter, and know what to say. That being said, it's also one of the scariest. It thrives on unpredictability, the precise thing that most people hate. Many stray from social interaction and conversation because it can be so unpredictable. What if it's awkward? They hate you, think you're weird, or don't laugh at any of your jokes. This compels some people to have a script in their heads every time they talk to others in an attempt to make it less unpredictable and more comfortable. However, that, of course, takes you away from the present and the person in front of you. Once you become more familiar and comfortable with the principles of improv, you will see the heights you can reach as a result of creating unplanned flow. How to gain confidence. This might all sound great to you, but you may still feel unable to make that leap and actually start trying some of these ideas out for yourself in real life. There are a few ways that you can start to slowly build up the confidence needed to put yourself out there and try something new. Try to remember that this kind of thing can be nerve-wracking for everyone. There are no quick hacks or shortcuts, though, just doing it. Luckily, you don't have to leap in all at once. Confidence builds on itself. If you can take a small risk, you get the chance to watch it pay off and your confidence rises a little. You're prepared to take a slightly bigger risk next time. One way to gradually build up conversational confidence is to practice getting warmed up in low-risk contexts. For example, try going to a noisy bar or club where you have to shout above the music to be heard. A big part of building confidence is having the nerve to stand up, open your mouth, and project your voice loudly and clearly. Easy to practice in a noisy room where you have no choice. Get out of your comfort zone and be loud. Probably no one will even hear most of what you say anyway, so relax with it. Try something new. If it flops, you can always blame the music. A variation on this is to deliberately abandon verbal communication in a noisy environment. This simplifies things right down, so you need to fall back on gestures, body language, and facial expressions. There's something kind of playful and primal about this. Just have a go at reaching out to your friend and conveying simple emotions or ideas. You could even try practicing some of these exaggerated gestures in a mirror with yourself. The idea is to get comfortable moving your body, taking up space, and expressing yourself comfortably. If you're feeling that low confidence is a problem, just start small and go slowly. When you have to engage with someone in conversation, try to push your limits a little in small, manageable ways. For example, you could try any of the techniques we'll discuss later in the book, but for just 10-second bursts. Give the other person a short compliment that they don't really have to respond to, and then hang back to see how you feel. Ask simple or yes or no questions. For example, is there a Starbucks near here? Or, what's the time? This is incredibly low risk, but still gives you an opportunity to speak up and get comfortable with doing so. Try not to put pressure on yourself to become a dazzling master of conversation overnight. You may force an awkward situation that just makes you feel worse and more nervous the next time you have to chat to someone new. Instead, keep it light and easy, go at your own pace, and give other people the floor whenever you're not feeling confident. Use the time to go into info-gathering mode and just listen. You can still be great company even when you don't say a thing. Takeaways. Good conversations don't just happen by chance. You need to actively work toward making them happen. In many ways, conversations and improv are similar. Like performers working in tandem, a conversation involves two people who are both responding to each other while being in sync. Neither the performers nor the interlocutors know how things are going to go, and the spontaneity is exactly what makes the improv or conversation fun. Recognize the importance of emotions to conversations. We rarely tend to reveal our emotional reaction to anecdotes or try to analyze what emotional state the other person is in out of fear of saying the wrong thing. But being emotionally intelligent in conversations puts others first, gets ego out of the way, and leads to conversations that are more intimate. We often go into conversations with a specific goal or topic in mind that restricts the ways we can engage with others and makes the entire affair drab. However, conversations can be enormously fun if we allow ourselves to take risks and treat it as an enriching two-person activity instead of us simply trying to get something from the other person. Conversations require you to be confident, and they can be nerve-wracking, but there are ways to become comfortable just talking to others. Push yourself to practice and talk to as many people as you can, but don't expect results overnight. Rule of improv comedy. In response to someone else's suggestion, thought, or topic, always say yes and, which means that you drop your train of thought, adopt theirs, and add something to keep the conversation flowing. This is likely the one improv comedy method you may have heard of, and there's good reason because it's so effective. It's one of the first rules taught to beginners and was taught to me on the first day of my workshop. Here's how this works in an improv comedy performance. Wait, look to your left. What is that? Is that a Godzilla monster? Oh my gosh, you're right. And it seems to have titanium armor and a laser mounted to its head. The first person asserted something, and the second person followed their lead, agreed, and even added an element for good measure. This rule is about how to keep an open mind and seize the power of possibility in your conversations. There are a few specific elements to this rule. The first element is that you are, some might say blindly, dropping whatever thought you had or story you wanted to tell. Don't get too comfortable with any grand plans. Remember, the conversation has to flow. It's as though you've been thrown a ball. Put down whatever you're holding so you can catch that ball and run with it. This is the most difficult part for most people. We enjoy sharing our thoughts with others, and sometimes we just want to talk about ourselves. That compulsion usually lacks balance, and people that aren't consciously aware of this rule typically lack the self-awareness to realize that others aren't enjoying hearing about every detail of their lives. This first part takes discipline and practice, because even if we're not conversationally well-centered, sometimes we just want to finish or articulate our thoughts. We can, but we should realize that it might be detrimental to the flow of the conversation, which is the overarching goal. The second element is to agree with the other person's assertion. You take it as true and accept it. You don't deny or argue with it. It's now a fact that you are operating from. You don't have to outright agree with it. Your goal is to let the other person know that you have accepted it as the new topic. Remember, there are no arguments or debates in improv comedy, only collaboration and teamwork. Therefore, you are collaborating with your teammate on this new topic. But the great thing is that the moment you accept this new turn in the play, you're back in the game again, and you can add your own piece once more. It can be a wonderful thing to relinquish control and your position in the center of the storytelling, and yet somehow feeling more intimately bound up in the flow of the story. The third element is the part that truly signals to people that you are fully on board with them. You agree with them and then add another comment to build upon what they said. It shows that you found something interesting and noteworthy about the topic as well, which further encourages them to speak about it. Going with the flow. There are many overall effects to the rule. The first is that you are the opposite of a filter. Nothing is taboo, inappropriate, or too unimportant for you to speak about. You're happy to discuss anything, and you can add something to any topic. Where others might balk and shy away, you'll be the first to say yes and engage further. People who feel like they can open up to you and be vulnerable with you, which is no small feat. Conversations will feel fresh, genuine, and even creative. Second, it keeps an immaculate conversational flow because you are seamlessly entering a new and foreign topic, despite what was discussed just prior. This rule keeps things smooth, whereas people who fight to jump back to the prior topic of discussion can seem selfish, stilted, or just plain awkward. And, of course, adopting the mindset of this rule means that you are collaborating with the person you're speaking to. No matter what they bring to the table, you'll work with them to make a good discussion from it. At its root, this is a chapter about recognizing where people may want to go in a conversation and meeting them there, instead of steering it back toward a topic that you want to focus on. We let go of the idea of the conversation we want to have and embrace the one that is actually happening right in front of us. Suppose someone says to you, "Health insurance is so expensive these days." You can handle this assertion in many ways. You can simply refuse it. "No, I get it super cheap. I don't know what you're talking about." How did it even feel to read that? It's a statement that obliterates conversational flow and can sound borderline confrontational. At the very least, it's argumentative because you've completely contradicted someone else's experience, putting them on the defensive. You can agree with it. "Yeah, it sucks." Well, where does the conversation go from here? An acknowledgement by itself is conversational dead space because you've bounced the ball back to the other person with nothing behind it. Finally, you can use yes and. "Yeah, it sucks. Seems like it's been going up forever, right?" Note that you don't need an explicit fact about health insurance, just an additional comment on the general topic. This means you don't actually need to know much about the topics presented. You just have to be able to give a general statement, which is far easier. This version of the response is by far the superior one, because it actually spurs on the conversation and doesn't stop it dead in its tracks like the others do. Notice that this response isn't necessarily clever or witty or capable of completely blowing the mind of the other person, but it keeps things going. Another example. "I love pepperoni pizza so much." Here's the disagreeing reply. "Pepperoni tastes like the cardboard box that the pizza is served in." That's not going to do much for rapport. Here's the agreeing only reply. "Yeah, totally, it's the best." Again, a simple acknowledgement is just a nod of the head. It doesn't add anything and doesn't give people anything to comment further on. In fact, it's one of the leading causes for awkward silences. Here's the yes and reply. "Yeah, it's pretty great. I love mushrooms too, but never sardines." See how the sentiment is agreed with and expanded upon? The expansion wasn't directly about pepperonis, but added to the conversation nonetheless. It shows your conversation partner that you're on the same page as them by taking them deeper into the topic, no matter how shallow that they brought up. You display a willingness to engage on anything. Instead of walling off a conversation, highlight your emotional engagement in the other person by adding to it. It's not about agreement or disagreement. It's about flow. It's just as important to realize how not to respond here. If you respond in the first two ways as shown in the examples, you'll repel people far more than you realize. You want to send a signal to others that their words are important to you. Remember that the overall goal is to create a pleasurable experience, and nothing can be more pleasurable than feeling valued and validated. This makes them seek out your company even more. One more example for good measure. "These shoes are pretty old. I want new ones." The argumentative answer. "You don't need them." The agreeing only answer. "Yeah, I guess." The yes and answer. "Yeah, I guess. Seems like you've had them for a decade." Now, let's try something slightly different. "I just read that the sky is blue because the sky is the eyeball of a giant bird." This is obviously something that's difficult to agree with. You can't really respond positively here without lying through your teeth. In instances where you find it difficult to agree with the sentiment of people's words, substitute yes and with yes, really? You may not necessarily agree, but the beauty of the phrasing is that you're not opposing the other person explicitly, which keeps their guard down and keeps confrontation from rising. It essentially creates an agreeable context for discussion and mutual understanding. The "really" statement also isn't an explicit refusal. How might you answer the assertion from earlier about the sky and the giant eyeball? Oh, interesting. That sounds like something I may have heard before. Where did you hear about that? You've not accepted their assertion, but you haven't denied it in a way that will raise their defenses. All you've done is raise innocent curiosity and interest in the topic, which is sometimes as good as it gets for wild assertions. Where "yes and" allows you to respond in instances where you can agree and discuss freely, "yes, really" is for situations where you want to disagree mightily. It's more effective because it softens the negative impact and also attempts to find common ground and understanding. Here we see that often in conversation, it's not really about the content, but about the emotion, the intention behind the words, the vibe, the flow. You can approach what your conversation partner says in a closed-off, hostile way, or you can be open and receptive to it. But that's not the same as disagreeing or agreeing. You can hold any opinion at all about another player's next step while still valuing an ongoing dynamic with them. Let's contrast both of those versions of this improv comedy rule with "yes, but," a more negative spin. You immediately come off as combative. You come off as arguing or trying to correct the other person. This turns the conversation into a power struggle. Instead of an ally, you come off as an adversary, obviously trying to take control of the agenda. Recall that improv is about accomplishing a shared goal. This requires flow, working together, and accepting what other people bring to the table, regardless of what it is. That's the essence of "yes and" the opposite of "yes but." There are no right or wrong answers, only answers that lead to flow and those that do not. A great conversation has a million different directions, and you must be open to all of them. Does this sound like a lot of work with a burden falling solely on you most of the time? The unfortunate truth is most people won't help you out here, so it's up to you to create the kind of connections and interactions you want. Getting to the root of "no, but." What stops people from just being open-ended and receptive in conversations? What makes them say "no, but" instead of "yes, and"? To get into the psychology of conversation for a moment, what are the eternal scripts we all tell ourselves that get in the way of just being there with our conversation partner, going with the flow? If you can get to the root of these assumptions, beliefs, and values, you can stay vigilant for when they crop up and threaten to derail things. You can start to gently shift your perspective and, in time, become a better conversationalist. A common script goes like this: "I don't know anything about this topic, so I'd better steer things toward familiar territory." We might not like following a new thread or turn in a conversation because, unconsciously, we're worried that it will take us out of our comfort zone and into a place where we're less sure of our ability to talk with authority. But you can see how this may hurt a budding conversation. If you notice this tendency in yourself, try to remember that conversation is not about knowledge. You're not doing an interview or oral exam, and you don't get points for appearing wise and all-knowing. Being good to talk to is more about willingness to listen, empathy, and playfulness. In fact, the fewer knowns there are in the interaction, the better. If you're worried the other person is going to talk about a topic you can't contribute to, relax. Give them the floor for a moment. Ask questions. Give them the opportunity to teach you. I guarantee that in a while, you'll realize that you have plenty to weigh in on, whatever the topic. Closely related to this inner script is the fear that jumping in to offer "yes and" phrasing will make you look dumb. Have you ever watched interviews with some of the great comics and comedians? Many of them are astoundingly smart, even and maybe especially those that are known for the goofiest routines. In other words, what we normally think of as intelligence isn't really necessary for good conversation, improv, or stand-up. If you're someone who's afraid of adding to conversations or speaking up, keep in mind that it's never as bad as you think it will be. On the one hand, people are often quite focused on themselves and will not be closely analyzing everything you say to decide whether you're an idiot or not. On the other hand, even if something you say does flop completely, so what? The beauty of a fluid, dynamic, and moving conversation is that it keeps going. Just get back up, dust yourself off, and carry on. The truth is that even if you do put your foot in it, most people won't remember the incident in a day or two anyway, and messing up here and there teaches you a great lesson: how to be humble and use a little humor to get through awkward moments. Laugh at yourself, then move on. Finally, a common script or belief that keeps people out of good improv flow is, I don't have the right to add my own 2 cents here. Low self-esteem can make you feel like you don't really belong in a conversation or that you need to let others lead. Some people unconsciously feel that they aren't really entitled to get up and steer the conversation in a way that they want to. Blame it on culture, upbringing, prejudice, or whatever else. Many people think that actively grabbing hold of a conversation and running with it is a little selfish or rude, or for those life and soul type people, and not them. Only consistent practice will help shift this mindset. You have every right to speak up, to be yourself, to change the topic, to have an opinion, to participate, and you don't need to wait for an invitation from anybody. Think of it from the other side. Who's more interesting to talk to, the reserved, unconfident person with nothing to say, or the person who confidently brings themselves and their reality to the table? Takeaways. This chapter is about how to steer conversations to different topics without making things seem restrictive. One critical aspect of talking to people is the ability to transition between topics seamlessly. Many people struggle with this because they often want to discuss specific things and end up making the conversation rigid. The key rule to be remembered here is the yes and rule. Whenever someone states a proposition, your response should be to agree to it and contribute a line that will keep the conversation going. Simply agreeing isn't enough, since it brings the conversation to a dead end. Disagreeing is even worse, because it might make you come across as combative and unsympathetic. Don't be afraid to enter into conversational topics that you don't know much about. You might just end up learning something new, and you'll see that your fears about coming across as dumb are unfounded. If you keep conversations open-ended, people will naturally want to talk to you because they'll feel like they can share anything with you. A more negative version of the yes and rule is the yes but rule. It's similar, but the latter immediately makes the other person think of you as argumentative. This is because, unlike the yes and rule, it doesn't help the conversation flow. This has been Improve Your Conversations. Think on your feet, witty banter, and always know what to say with Improv Comedy Techniques, 2nd edition. Written by Patrick King, narrated by Russell Newton. Copyright 2021 by Patrick King. Production copyright by Patrick King.